While the Plath family's drama has exploded in front of TLC's cameras, parents splitting, siblings rebelling, family rules crumbling, one person has stood in the middle, smiling softly, keeping her composure. That's Lydia Plath. But don't be fooled by the calm exterior. Behind that peaceful smile is a young woman navigating one of the most complicated family storms reality TV has ever shown us. Hey everyone, this is Christine, and welcome to Inside Hollywood, couple your #1 place for deep dives into the emotional truths and untold stories behind the show. If you love peeling back the layers of TLC's most fascinating families, hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Lydia will ever fully break away from her parents' control? From the outside, Lydia's life might seem untouched by the chaos that's defined her siblings' storylines. She's the dutiful daughter, the one still close to her parents, still living in the faith-centered world that Kim and Barry built. While Ethan cut ties, while Moriah dyed her hair and ran off into independence, and while Micah chased his modeling career, Lydia seemed to remain the steady heart of the family. But if you've been paying attention, really paying attention, you've seen the subtle signs. The moments when her voice falters during an interview, the way her eyes shift when someone brings up the divorce, the small but telling changes in her personal style, her music, and the way she talks about her future. And that's where today's story begins, with Lydia, the Plath sibling who has quietly carried the weight of a fractured family while starting to discover who she might be without their control. To understand Lydia today, you have to go back to the old Plathville. Back when the cameras first rolled, the Plath children were living on that isolated farm in rural Georgia, far from mainstream culture. No TV, no sugar, no social media, no dating. The world they knew was the one Kim and Barry carefully curated. A world built on strict religious rules, modesty, and complete obedience to parental authority. In that environment, Lydia thrived, at least on the surface. She was the model daughter, soft-spoken, devoted to her faith, always ready to help with chores, care for the younger kids, or sing hymns on cue. TLC viewers quickly labeled her the peacemaker, the one who smoothed things over when tempers flared between her siblings and their parents. But here's the thing. Being the good one in a family like this comes at a cost. When you're the one holding the peace, you learn to bury your own feelings. You become the buffer between your parents' expectations and your siblings' rebellion. You take on responsibility far beyond your years, especially when the family starts to crack. And crack, it did. As Ethan and Olivia's marriage tension pulled Ethan away from his parents, as Moriah began questioning the faith and rules she was raised in, and as Micah left home to build his modeling career, the family's once perfect image began to crumble. And every time someone left or broke the rules, Lydia became even more valuable to Kim and Barry. She was the one who stayed. Some fans believe Lydia's loyalty was a survival strategy. After all, if your family is falling apart, staying close to your parents might feel like the only way to keep the world you know from collapsing entirely. Others think Lydia truly believed in the lifestyle her parents taught, that her faith and obedience weren't just habits, but deeply personal choices. But over time, cracks began to show. Little signs that Lydia was beginning to dream of a life that didn't revolve entirely around her parents' rules. And if you've been watching closely, those moments are hard to miss. For years, Lydia was the safe bet, the one you could count on to stand beside her parents no matter how heated things got on Welcome to Plathville. But then, the little changes started creeping in. First, it was in her music. Lydia has always been a songwriter, pouring her feelings into soft, faith-based melodies. But over time, her lyrics started to feel different, more personal, less about family unity, and more about her own spiritual journey. It was subtle, but it was there. The kind of change you notice only if you've been following her closely. Then there were the clothes. Gone was the always modest, always neutral Lydia. We started seeing touches of individuality, brighter colors, trendier cuts, little hints of personality peeking out from behind the Plath daughter image. It wasn't Moriah's bold hair dye and eyeliner rebellion, but it was Lydia's version of saying, "I'm here. I'm me." And maybe the biggest shift came in her interactions with her siblings. Early seasons showed Lydia walking a fine line, staying close to her parents, but never shutting the door completely on her more rebellious brothers and sisters. But in more recent episodes, we've seen her bridge that gap more openly. She visits Moriah. She talks to Ethan without her parents present. She laughs with Micah about things that probably wouldn't fly in Barry and Kim's living room. It's in those moments you realize Lydia's not rebelling. She's expanding. She's figuring out how to be loyal to her faith and explore her own independence. She's finding out she can love her parents without living exactly like them. But here's where it gets interesting. That middle ground Lydia's carving out? It's dangerous territory in a family like the Plaths. Because if you're not fully in line with your parents' way of life, they start to wonder if you're slipping away. And if you're not fully on the side of your more independent siblings, they might see you as still under your parents' thumb. Lydia's balancing act is more delicate than ever. And as the family's fractures deepen, she's about to face a choice she's been able to avoid. Until now. When Kim and Barry Plath's marriage finally collapsed, it wasn't just a legal split. It was an earthquake that shook the entire family tree. Some kids, like Moriah, openly sided with Kim. Others, like Isaac, stayed closer to Barry. Ethan pulled back from both. Micah kept his distance. And right in the middle was Lydia. If you've watched closely, you'll notice that Lydia became what I like to call the last bridge. She was the one person still crossing between both camps, checking in on her dad while also maintaining her bond with her mom. She could still walk into Barry's house with respect, but also meet Kim for lunch without tension. On camera, Lydia tried to downplay the divorce's impact on her. She said things like, "I just want both of my parents to be happy." But her eyes told another story. You could see the weight of responsibility settling onto her shoulders. The silent pressure of being the one person who could keep some sense of unity alive. Friends close to Lydia have hinted that she's had moments where she's felt torn in two. Moments where she wishes she could just step away from the drama entirely. But walking away would mean losing her role as the calm, reliable daughter. And Lydia doesn't give up roles easily. The divorce also forced her to reevaluate her own beliefs about marriage, independence, and what it means to obey family expectations. Watching her parents, the couple who set the moral blueprint for her life, split apart had to shake her in ways we may never fully see on camera. And now, as both Kim and Barry move forward with their separate lives, the question isn't just whether Lydia can keep the peace, but whether she even wants to anymore. For years, Lydia Plath has been the emotional anchor in a family tossed around by conflict. But even anchors can rust under constant waves. As the Plath siblings grow older and more independent, Lydia's role as the good daughter is starting to feel less like a choice and more like a cage. She's always been the one to answer her parents' calls, the one to step in when a sibling needs mediation, the one to smooth things over when tensions rise. But that kind of constant emotional labor, it leaves scars. Scars you can't see in a smiling Instagram post. And lately, the strain is starting to peek through. Viewers have caught small moments. A flash of irritation in her voice. A guarded response when a sibling criticizes her closeness to their parents. A hesitant pause before defending her mom or dad. It's subtle, but it's there. Part of the pressure comes from how divided her siblings are now. Ethan and Olivia are living their own lives, far away from the family circle. Moriah still has unresolved anger toward her parents. Micah is on his own journey and avoids family drama when possible. That leaves Lydia in the awkward position of trying to keep relationships alive with everyone, which in a family this fractured is a full-time job in itself. And then there's the unspoken criticism from both sides. Some siblings wonder if she's too loyal to Kim and Barry, while her parents quietly expect her to maintain the standards and values they raised her with. It's a tightrope walk, and Lydia knows one wrong step could lead to someone, maybe everyone, pulling away from her. What makes this phase of Lydia's story so compelling is that she's no longer the perfectly composed daughter we saw in earlier seasons. She's still calm, still soft-spoken, but there's a quiet defiance creeping in. She's starting to question why she's the one carrying so much of the family's emotional weight. And if history has taught us anything about the Plaths, it's that once a child starts asking why, change is on the horizon, whether the parents are ready for it or not. Lydia Plath may still live under her parents' roof, but she's no longer the same girl who quietly blended into the background while her siblings made headlines. Something has shifted. It's in the way she dresses. Small, deliberate changes that step just outside the boundaries of her family's once strict modesty rules. A slightly bolder color palette, a more fitted blouse, jewelry that catches the light. It's not rebellion in the traditional sense. No shock value hair dye, no nose ring. But for someone raised in the Plath household, even these choices speak volumes. Then there's her music. For years, Lydia's songs carried the tone of traditional church worship. Safe, pure, exactly what her parents would approve of. But recently, there's been a noticeable evolution. She's started writing more personal lyrics, pieces that hint at inner struggles, longing, and the kind of emotional honesty that doesn't always align perfectly with her parents' public image. It's art as self-discovery, and it's becoming harder for her family to ignore. Social media has been another quiet testing ground. Lydia has been posting more frequently, sharing glimpses of her life that go beyond the narrative TLC presents. Some are lighthearted, but others feel like subtle statements. Photos where she looks free, captions that sound like affirmations, quotes about independence and faith that could double as veiled responses to the family drama. It's this balance, testing her limits without completely severing ties, that makes Lydia's journey fascinating to watch. She isn't staging a dramatic exit like Moriah, or cutting off communication like Ethan. Instead, she's using patience as her strategy. Each small step forward is measured, intentional, and almost undetectable to anyone who isn't paying close attention. But the risk is always there. Too much independence, too quickly, and she could face the same fallout her other siblings did. Lydia seems aware of this, which is why her rebellion feels more like a quiet rebranding, showing her parents and siblings that she can evolve without abandoning her roots. Still, as we've seen time and again in this family, change has a way of speeding up once it begins. And while Lydia's steps might be small right now, they're leading somewhere. Toward a lay, that's more hers than anyone else's. If there's one thing the Plath family has proven over the years, it's that they notice everything, especially when someone begins to drift outside the unspoken rules. And lately, Lydia's quiet evolution hasn't gone unnoticed. Kim, the matriarch, is perhaps the most conflicted. On one hand, she's been on her own journey toward a looser, more modern lifestyle since separating from Barry. She's experimented with her image, her dating life, and her public persona. You'd think she'd celebrate Lydia's small steps toward self-expression, but with Lydia, Kim still holds a certain line. The image of her sweet, pure daughter is something she's reluctant to let go of. It's part pride, part control, and part fear that too much freedom might send Lydia down the same path of estrangement that's fractured the family before. Barry, on the other hand, remains a man of habit. His reactions are quieter but more telling. He notices the clothes, the captions, the shift in her music, and he doesn't comment much, which is almost more telling than an outright confrontation. Silence in the Plath household often means disapproval simmering beneath the surface. Her siblings are split. Moriah cheers her on, recognizing the early signs of a personal awakening. She's been through the process herself, the thrill of making choices purely for yourself, the sting of family backlash, the complicated dance of independence and loyalty. Ethan, ever cautious, seems to keep his opinions close, likely not wanting to add more tension between Lydia and their parents. Micah offers casual encouragement, telling her to do her thing, but he knows all too well that doing your thing in this family can come with a price. Even the younger siblings have picked up on the shift. In a family where image and behavior are constantly monitored, they sense that Lydia is charting her own subtle course. And that awareness, even unspoken, has a ripple effect. Yeah, then it plants the idea that maybe they, too, could explore life on their own terms someday. But here's the part that makes this so intriguing. No one's saying anything outright. The Plath household is full of unspoken rules, side glances, and coded conversations. Lydia's changes are like a slow leak in a tightly sealed jar, not enough to cause an explosion, yet. But the pressure is building, and when it finally releases, it won't just be Lydia who's affected. If there's one thing reality TV teaches us, it's that the real conversation doesn't just happen on screen. It happens in the comment sections, the fan forums, and the endless scroll of social media. And when it comes to Lydia Plath's slow but steady transformation, the internet has been paying attention. On Instagram, you'll find comments split into two camps. Some fans are cheering her on, applauding every tiny step toward individuality. "Yes, Lydia, live your life," one commenter writes under a recent photo, followed by a flood of heart emojis. To them, every new outfit, every casual selfie, every lyric snippet is a quiet rebellion, a refusal to be boxed in by the Plath family's ultra-conservative image. But the other camp is far less forgiving. These are the watchers who see Lydia's changes not as growth, but as compromise, accusing her of straying from her faith or seeking worldly attention. Some even warn her that she's heading down the same road as her more rebellious siblings. The judgment may come wrapped in faux concern, but it's judgment all the same. Reddit threads have been buzzing too. Theories fly about whether Lydia is setting herself up for a dramatic season arc, or if she's simply finding her voice away from the cameras. Longtime viewers dissect her posts, looking for hidden meanings in every caption. Was that Bible verse a nod to family tension? Was that outfit a subtle clap back to cry, "Tics"? TikTok edits have begun popping up too. Montages of Lydia's early appearances on Welcome to Plathville, spliced against her current look, set to trending audio about becoming who you really are. Younger fans especially seem to resonate with her quiet evolution, perhaps because they know the courage it takes to start changing in plain sight of people who expect you to stay the same forever. The bigger picture here is that Lydia is becoming a conversation piece, a symbol even, in the ongoing debate about the Plath family's way of life. She's no longer just the obedient one. She's someone fans are projecting their own hopes, fears, and even criticisms onto. And while she may not be speaking out directly, the public's reaction is proof that in the reality TV universe, silence doesn't mean invisibility. Sometimes it means people are paying even more attention because they're waiting to see what you'll do next.